This is the location of our Ravne 3 tunnels. Well, until 6-7 years ago, this was just a hill. And at that time, we already had properties in the park. And then I decided to buy this property here because it was just next to the park. I didn't want anyone to come and build hotel or anything like that. So we purchased about 5,000 square meters. And then the border is approximately here. Going up, it's not our property. So we started clearing, making this little road here. So we have a nice circle here. So while cleaning the area and clearing it from the bushes and some trees, we noticed this conglomerate block. Now, there are 5 of these blocks sticking out. And if you remember, when you enter the Ravne tunnels, there is also a big conglomerate block which presents a ceiling. And you go under and you go to the tunnels. And the next thing, I noticed that this spot here is 476 meters above the sea level. The same height like the entrance to the Ravne tunnels. So at the same level. Is this a coincidence? Of course not. We have conglomerate block, we have the same height. And now this hill, just by looking, I thought that probably there are some tunnels inside. So we started digging, removing the soil and the clay. So after maybe a couple of weeks, we managed to find the entrance here. And just at the entrance, we discovered this rock, like somebody wanted to hide the entrance. And since this rock was interesting, sitting on 3 little plates, we said, okay, these are support plates, let's keep it like this. And obviously it was hollow, it was empty. I said, let's go to that block number 4. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we went to the other one, and then we started removing the soil again. After the soil, we got clay, and clay was light brown and dark brown. And then we got the gray clay. Gray, it's about 20,000 years. But we kept, clearing, and eventually we find a small hollow space. And first, one of our youngest volunteers, this boy here, since he was so tiny, his father let him go in, and he was so excited. So he went inside for about 4 or 5 meters, 15, 16 feet, and he said there is an opening there. So we kept digging, removing the clay, so we have managed to make a nice entrance. And there was a section of 65 meters, completely open. Well, today we have a real nice occasion with 2 volunteers at the time. It was 2018 that we discovered this. The first one is gentleman right here, the one that's holding my mobile phone. Mike.
Hi.
So Mike was really a big help and support, great man to have with us, and he's been coming ever since. Every summer he's here. We try to stay as much as he can. And the other one is Adele, right here. Adele is from the United States. And years ago she told me she sold everything she had in the US. She decided to travel the world and see what's going to happen. So I think she's still happy with that decision, right?
Absolutely.
But she keeps coming back to Visoko, checking on us, updates and so on. So she's on the photo also, right? Adele, you are here. And we have some other similar faces. Wendy is here, Richard is here, Marie-Sophie is here. So it's an international company always. And I'm really privileged to have such wonderful people helping us with our project. So we entered the tunnel which is about 65 meter open section. After that it was closed with the filler material. There was one section straight, one to the left, and then that one was closed also. And that one was connected with this opening here, and there is another one and another one on the other side. So obviously we have a network on this side. So what is the scenario? What is happening here? Well, since they are the same height above the sea level, for me at one time in the past they were part of the same tunnel network. But how come we have this valley here? Well, let's think. This valley, this is direction north-south, north-south. What is to the north? To the north is Middle and the Northern Europe. And now when we remember 12,000 years back, the end of the last ice age, huge quantities of ice melted and water came down south, huge tsunamis. Some of us remember that big tsunami that hit Indonesia, December 24th, 2004. That tsunami was 25 meters high. I imagine now this tree is probably 10 meters, double the size of this tree. 25 meters, that's a lot of power coming with the sea. And when we go, and that tsunami killed 225,000 people in Indonesia. 250,000 people. 12,000 years back, at the end of the last ice age, tsunamis were reaching 1,000 meters, 3,300 feet in height. Can you imagine that? 1 kilometer above our heads. They are so huge, so powerful, so disastrous for everything that was on their way. And those tsunamis were coming from this direction, were coming our way, destroying everything in front. And they are the ones that destroyed part of the area here, destroying the tunnels and leaving some to the left and some to the right. But then the interesting thing is, since we are finding that those tunnels are also filled with the filler material, and we are finding the dry walls, it's the same scenario like in the Ravne tunnels. So obviously the same intelligent hand, for some reason wanted to hide wherever the tunnels lead to. So Ravne tree that we called, that we named it like that, belonging to the same common tunnel network. In the meantime, we discovered besides Ravne tunnel, Ravne 2, and I showed you the other way, Ravne 2 tunnels. That's in the first valley of the park. One level below, this is Ravne 3, and 300 meters down the road, we discovered another entrance, Ravne 4. Today I'm going to show you where they are located. And then in the hill over there, besides Ravne tunnels, the next hill, Ravne 5, another tunnel. And in this hill, to the left, near the green crystal pyramid, we're going to see that today, discovered another one, which we named Ravne 6. So just in this radius of 1 mile, kilometer and a half, we have 6 entrances. Are they original entrances? Probably not. Original entrance was probably different, more elaborate. But since those tsunamis were destroying part of the network, now we got those holes, we got those parts of the tunnels, sticking out, which of course somebody wanted to hide from some future generations, from us. So the first 30 meters of Ravne 3 tunnels, they were obviously presence of man in the past. We had about half a meter of soil, and we were checking the soil very carefully. And in the soil we were discovering artifacts from different time periods. Ceramics, and this tool, the Corsair, and some others. This one is about 1,800 years old. So it belongs to the ancient Roman times. Thick ceramic, black, medieval times, Middle Age. So we discovered 3,300 different artifacts. I showed you the other day some of them in our big conference room. Most of them are pieces of ceramics. But why is that important? We spent almost 4 seasons working in Ravne 3 tunnels. It is important because there are some more here that you saw in the conference hall. Terasiljata, also ancient Roman times, couple of thousand years. This is Middle Age, most probably Middle Age, ancient Roman roof tile. It's important because it tells us that some people were getting inside during different time periods. 10 years ago, after, so let's say 2014, maybe 2012, we had a team from the National Geographic channel, or to be more precise. The producer was from UK, and they said, we do documentaries for National Geographic. And they sell them to National Geographic, because National Geographic does not have their TV crews. But they receive movies from different producers, and they have about 10 approved producers. So these people from England, they said, hey, listen, we follow your project Bosnian Pyramids, we would like to come there. I said, fine, come. And they said, well, we would like to bring 1 archaeologist and 1 geologist from England. I said, fine, bring 10 if you want. And they said, well, but they are skeptics, you know. I said, I don't care if they are skeptics, but then come and see what we have. So this is the way they were working. We went to the Ravne tunnels. They were filming for 4 days. 3 days they filmed with me. We were checking every drywall, intersection, organic material that we discovered, those big blocks. And I said, listen, you can bring as many skeptics as you want, but what I say as far as the science, analysis, dating, please leave in the documentary. They said, no problem. So they spent 3 days with me. They were filming, and you know, Englishmen, you know, they want sound perfect, they want light perfect, they want all this stuff. So it took a little bit longer than usual. And the 4th day, they said, listen, we don't need you today, we would like to get those 2 experts from England. We want their opinion, so we don't need you. I said, fine. So when I was watching that documentary, they were showing also the pyramids, and they were showing the tunnels. The tunnels, they remove all scenes they filmed with me. No science, no analysis, no nothing. They just shown those 2 guys, archaeologists and geologists. I never heard about them before or after. They were on the mission. They went to the tunnels, and now the camera is filming them, how they are running out from the tunnel saying, Osmanagich is digging tunnels himself. Everything is going to collapse.
Oh my God.
Well, exactly. When people actually come and see for themselves, they can see it is very old. It would be impossible for me to dig them. I mean, there are kilometers and tens of kilometers. There are millions of tons of filler material. There are hundreds of thousands of those little rocks, you know, that they use to make drywalls. However, people who watch National Geographic, a lot of people, that episode was watched by 100 million people. Wow. From the US, from Russia, from Mozambique, from Mars, I don't know, from everywhere. And people are watching it, of course they trust the National Geographic, because 90% of the time they show some animals, they show this, they show fish, so trust them. However, 10 to 20%, they are on the mission also. They are there to influence public with what they want us to believe. Not National Geographic, but those who own the National Geographic. Who owns National Geographic? Well, it's not me. Well, since I mentioned that, Walt Disney owns National Geographic. Walt Disney, which is owned by Westinghouse, which is owned by Bank of America, which is owned not by Mike, but by Rockefellers.
Yes. The bad guys.
Yeah, but who's behind BlackRock? You can see BlackRock everywhere in every big corporations in the world. You know, whether it is Microsoft or whoever, but who owns the BlackRock? That it doesn't tell on Wikipedia. These are those few families: Rockefellers, Morgans, Rothschilds. Which Rothschilds? Rothschilds Frankfurt, Rothschilds London, Rothschild Paris, Rothschild Napoli in Italy, and Rothschild Barcelona. They own all these big corporations. Well, anyway, later on, of course, I realized what was the reason they came. It was like 6-7 years after we started the project, and despite all the obstacles, all the attacks, we were continuing and growing and growing. So they said, well, it's enough now. So we're going to send our crews, we're going to send our experts, and they're going to bury the project. Well, of course, you know, we continued. We just learned another thing about the world today. So why was it important to find all these artifacts from different time periods? Well, if you find 3,300 pieces from late Middle Age, from early Middle Age, from Byzantine times, from ancient Roman times, and from Neolithic times, 5,000 years. Obviously, those tunnels were used during those times. Is it possible that one guy dig all the tunnels, close them, and then plant thousands of artifacts from different time periods? Of course not. And that was the reason why we spent a few years working here, you know, just to show that we have wealth of information from different time periods. The next thing that was interesting for us is how old are the tunnels? Well, in the tunnels, and Mike knows that very well, we have discovered a lot of stalactites on the ceilings and a lot of stalagmites on the floors. So, if you have water dropping through the ceiling, then the stalactites are formed. But the water drops to the ground floor, and in the beginning the water goes left and right. But with the time, it creates little hole by dropping, and then in this hole you have dust, you have some other stuff, and then the stalagmites starts growing slowly, but it grows. If it is a small stalagmite and tiny, it means that it is rather young. If it is a little bit bigger, it's older, obviously. So, from the very entrance, we started finding those both stalactites and stalagmites. Now, stalactites are pure water, but stalagmites, because of the floor, there are some other substances. Some of them are organic, and they can be dated through the radiocarbon dating and uranium-thorium analysis. So, some of the stalagmites, like one of them, and on the next poster, we don't need to go there, but I can just show you. You see the next poster on the top, that rounded object, that's actually a stalagmite that we cut with the saw and sent for the radiocarbon dating. And the date we got was 26,200 years. What does that mean? It means that if the stalagmite was formed from the floor, that there was a hollow space between ceiling and the floor for at least 26,200 years. However, we cut, you will see that later, we cut the stalagmite close to the bottom, close to the base, meaning the oldest part, the very base, is still there. So we need to add a few more thousand years. So this way we are getting to about 30,000 years. Because it takes another few thousand years for the floor to prepare for stalagmites to grow. So this was really amazing thing for us to find out. And then as we were clearing, in some areas the floor would go a little bit up and then down. So we started clearing that part that goes up, and then we realized that behind the soil and the clay there was a dry wall. So the first dry wall we discovered in the tunnels was approximately halfway, so 65 meters open section, about 32 meters, there was a dry wall. Now, on the top of this dry wall, there was one big stone plate. And then when we looked at the ceiling, it was obvious to us that it collapsed from the ceiling. So the dry wall is the oldest, obviously, because it's at the bottom. This plate, the collapse, happened a little bit later. And on top of that plate, we discovered stalagmites. So this is the dry wall that we discovered. You see this plate here? We cut it in half so we can move. So it was all the way like this. But then on the top of this plate, like this illustration shows, dry wall, somebody made it. Plate, stalagmite. So if the stalagmite is here, it means it is the youngest, oldest. Here's the stalagmite.
I'm working.
S008. S008. So we sent it to be dated. So S008, 15,000 plus minus 1,000 years, and the other one, S001, 19,000 plus minus 1,000. This is uranium thorium analysis. Now, as I told you a couple of days back, we did 28 radiocarbon dating. But then we can hear some people complaining, oh, radiocarbon is not so precise. Well, maybe it is not so precise. But if it is off 5%, 10%, even 20%, 10% on 30,000, it's 3,000. So we still go back for 25 or 30 or 35,000 years. But we said, fine, okay, now we're going to do another analysis, uranium thorium analysis. We sent it to the Czech Academy of Sciences in Prague, and they got 19,000. So you see how we always getting extremely old age. 15,000 smaller stalagmites, 19,000 bigger stalagmites, and so on. So we are talking about the Paleolithic times by any means. So we go back to the forbidden area, forbidden age of Paleolithic times before the end of the last ice age. Now, archaeologists, historians made this classification. Paleolithic times, so they said it goes 2 million years back until 12,000 years ago. I disagree with this classification. And then they are saying Mesolithic times, 12,000, 10,000, and Neolithic times, younger than 10, 9, 8, 7, 5. They have such a noble role in the life. However, that's the ancient past. It doesn't mean that we have to be desperate today because of that fact. Today we are here, and we simply need to better organize ourselves instead of what we have nowadays. Nowadays we have similar things. Anunnakis are long gone, but our Anunnakis are really those 3,000 super billionaires, which I mentioned some of them, Rothschilds, or Morgans, or DuPont, or Rockefellers, Lees from Hong Kong, who owned more than 90% of the planetary resources, and who make us, normal, common people, struggle in daily life to pay our bills. So it seems that they behave like Anunnakis today, putting us as their slaves. And they enslaved us through the money, and tomorrow it will be through the digital money and biochips and other means of control. So it's always up to us, to the majority, to decide what we want to do with our lives. So the story about all these discoveries at the Bosnian Pyramids is much more than just another archaeological discovery. This is the story about us, humans, about what was before our time and how it can influence what we do here today. The story is about the Bosnian Pyramids as the energy machines, energy amplifiers that amplify existing natural energy sources, giving us clean, energy, unlimited energy, and free energy. It's showing us a direction. So Tesla's noble goals were not in vain. So we, in a sense, continue such noble goals. But imagine the concept. Have initial investment and spend some time, effort, energy, money. Build a complex that will last forever. How much it is different from our concept. Whatever we do, the first generation, it lasts 2, 3, 5 years. Yeah. And the second generations of machines, of sound recording, or whatever, it lasts just for a few years. Then you need to buy a new one or repair the existing one. These guys were very smart. They build something, it lasts forever. And it affects the area or other civilizations forever. That's why it's so important for us to measure, to realize that devices like tunnels or pyramids, they affect us, they affect our health, they affect our water that we drink, they affect our food that we eat, they affect our blood, our immunity. So once we measure that, then we say, hey, we can use this technology even today. It's not as strong as during the original times. I believe this pyramid here could affect the area of maybe 300-400 kilometers, a couple of 100 miles. It was intentionally made the biggest on the planet. Egyptian pyramids could affect a couple of 100 kilometers also, or Peruvian, or Tibetan, or Chinese, and so on. So, different time, different concepts, but much smarter and eco-friendly civilizations. I'd like to show you a couple of posters here, and then we're going to enter Ravne 3 tunnels. Thank you for the attention.
Doing the video for Dr Sam.
I just heard.
You get them everywhere, don't you?
I heard a muttering on the cameraman. She said something about the English, and I said actually it's French.
Okay, remember how I was telling you about the stalagmites? You see the stalagmites here, and you see the stalactites. So those pieces sticking from the ceiling, they are called stalactites. And those on the floor, stalagmite. This is one of the stalagmites. You see how we cut it, the saw, close to the bottom. But what remained, you see how much it remained. Meaning the oldest part remained here. So when we did dating of this part, this one right here, the age 26,200 years plus minus 250 years. Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, foundation, sample number S001, and so on. This is called science. Okay.
Looks like a ring.
Now, in the tunnels, we have discovered a lot of bones, but they are mostly from the recent age, from Middle Age until like 100 years back. And when we analyze the bones, these are different animals the bones belong to. So here we have a fox, we have a badger, we have a wildcat. Wildcat is extinct now, it's not in the area no more. We have some chickens, some poultry, which was probably the ownership of these guys here.
I don't think they came willingly.
That's why they went
Me
extinct.
neither. And then here we have some of the ceramic pieces that we discovered. Some of them we were able to put together. Just on one location, we discovered 78 fragments of the pots. One pot, 78 fragments, and more than half are missing. So, you know, that's how the people who work in, conserving those stuff, how much effort they need to put to make something like this. Okay, now I'm taking you inside.